Scott Yurgz here at the beautiful Philadelphia Cricket Club, and I am here today to answer the million-dollar question. How do we start the downswing? Like, what happens? Is there a magical move? I'm here to describe to you what that move is, how we do it, and what it looks like when a good player and a bad player makes a downswing. Stick along for the entire video. We're going to do a really cool drill at the very end that gets you to repeat the proper motion every single time. If you watch the whole thing, I guarantee you're going to be a better player. Let's do it. So before we talk about that magic move to start the downswing, let's make sure we have a fairly functional backswing. Things that would be functional that make the downswing easier would be some turn, some tilt, and some depth. And what I mean by depth is, can you create some depth with your hands so the club is moving in, up, and around? If we have those things and we have that kind of turn, that tilt, and that depth, this is going to make your life so much easier, because when you look at the move we're going to make in a second, all those pieces need to be somewhat in order so we can begin the downswing properly. All right, so the downswing is really, really simple. I know we like to overcomplicate things sometimes, but what we're going to talk about is 3 different motions that we make and how it influences the downswing. So what happens is when we make a downswing, we've got a rotational piece. So we get the club up to the top. There's a rotational piece on the way down. There's a lateral or a side-to-side piece, and there's a vertical piece where you're kind of pushing up off the ground. Now, most people, and I say most people will have the vertical piece. They like push off the ground. You probably see a lot of golfers kind of almost jump into the air. You see a lot of young golfers, junior golfers kind of push off the ground, get off the ground, get on their toes. Everyone generally understands the vertical component. What they have a hard time understanding is the rate at which we move side to side and the rate at which we rotate out towards the golf ball. So the majority of poor players, when they take the club back, they're going to take the club back, and even if they have enough depth to support a really good guy like downswing, they're going to start to rotate, and the amount they rotate is going to be much greater than the amount they shift linearly. Most great players will shift linearly the most, and most poor players will not shift at all. So what we have here is 2 golfers. The golfer on the left is a PGA Tour player and major winner, and the golfer on the right is not. That is a 20 handicapper. And what you're going to notice here is at the top of their backswings, they have a lot of similarities, but that's about where it ends. As they take the clubs back down to about parallel to the ground in their downswing, the PGA Tour player has almost 3 inches more of pelvis sway. That's just how far their pelvis moves left to right. So the golfer on the left moves 3 inches more forward. What is that going to do for their golf swing? It's probably going to move the low point more forward. It's probably going to keep their path fairly neutral or in to out. The golfer on the right is moving and rotating at a much faster rate. So if you look at the second set of numbers, pelvis turn, that is how much their hips have turned at this point in their downswing. So you notice the PGA Tour players actually got like 50% less pelvis turn. So they've moved almost 300% more laterally and rotated 50% less than the amateur golfer. At impact, it's even more dramatic. So the PGA Tour players moved almost 4 inches more forward and rotated 50% less than the amateur golfer that you see on the right-hand side. Looking at it from an above view, the PGA Tour player, because they moved laterally more, their shoulders are more closed to the target, and they've got more space kind of to deposit that golf club into to create a more in-to-out swing path. Most amateur golfers, and this 20 handicap included, struggles with being a little bit across the golf ball. Well, if they add more turn, the club is going to shift more outward and across the golf ball. If they add more linear, it'll keep their shoulders more closed for longer. Here it is at impact, and you notice that the golfer on the left, PGA Tour player, is a little more square, but still a little bit open to the golf ball. So we want to be less open, we want to have less turn, and we want to add more of that linear component. Having a little more fun with this 3D software, we see if we overlay the 2 golfers, how much more forward the PGA Tour player is at impact. It's a little more dramatic when you see it overlaid like this. You know, things that are going to happen when you get more forward, again, you're going to hit the golf ball more consistently, and you're also going to have a little bit more extension post-impact. So people that complain about having a chicken wing would have a pelvis that's too far back, too much rotation, and their arms would kind of suck in and get closer and bend and fold. Whereas our PGA Tour player keeps extending, keeps moving their pelvis more forward. And we're almost trending out to like 5-6 inches more forward than the average 20 handicapper. So how are we going to fix this? We're going to check that out in the drill that you see next. All right, so now that you understand what is happening, we need to figure out a fix. Easiest way I've ever seen this done is we take a tennis ball, we chop it directly in half, and now we're going to stick this tennis ball directly on the ground, and you're going to place your left foot just barely on it. So like your big toe is just kind of just up against the side of it. What you're going to do now is you're going to make your normal backswing, get it all the way up to the top. And from right here, again, making sure we have enough depth, turn, tilt, all that good stuff, we're going to make sure when we get up to the top, the first motion we're going to make is we're going to try to start crushing that tennis ball with our left side. So from here, you're going to start moving linearly into the tennis ball. It's going to feel like your left hip, left knee, left everything is going to be directly on top of that tennis ball. When you do it with the minimal amount of turn, you're going to have this giant open space here from this down the line view. So you have a chance now to deposit that golf club into that empty space and then add your rotation. So again, we're just trying to coordinate how much linear or side to side and how much rotation we have. If we reverse the order, what you're going to notice is if we rotate first, that tennis ball is not getting crushed. We're going to probably crush one if there was one under my right foot, right? So if I'm back here, rotating out, now I've got too much rotation, not enough forward or linear, and I'm going to hit behind it. Here's my pole slices. So again, left foot on the tennis ball, up to the top. On the way down, crush it, press into there, deposit the club into that open spot, and strike the golf ball. You should be able to do that repeatedly and get a feel for what it's like to push on that tennis ball. When you're feeling up for it, kind of kick it out of the way, repeat the same process, but without the tennis ball. The main idea is to feel that force into that left side, create enough linear to then be able to add the rotation.